Back in the ancient days of 2019 and 2020, before we were so graciously blessed by Nintendo with the announcement of Splatoon 3, but still after the Final Fest, there was a debate on whether or not a quote-unquote Splatoon 3 on the Switch would divide the Splatoon community. And in today's episode of this unnamed series that I have been doing since I started my channel that I have still yet to get around to making a name for, we're going to talk about whether or not Splatoon 3 is going to divide the Splatoon community. At first, you may not realize how scary of a concept this would actually be. A divided community would lead to poor Splatoon 3 sales, negative attention to the game and its community, infighting, and a whole ton of toxicity. And toxicity would really suck because Splatoon's one of Nintendo's least toxic fan bases. Not saying it can't be toxic, believe me, there's a reason I wasn't active in the Splatoon community before starting YouTube. But stupid infighting over which Splatoon game would be better would be so dumb and unnecessary. But unfortunately, it is a scenario that could come from a divided community. But that's enough about the consequences of a divided community. Let's get into the bread and butter. Will Splatoon 3 divide the community? Now, it's very easy to just write a stupid comment and say, "But Rizzy, there's no real way to know if Splatoon 3 will divide the community." Which my response would be, that's why we're going to theorize about it. Yeah, dingus. So the first scenario that could possibly lead to division is the new squid mechanics. Those being the new respawn system, the squid surge, and the squid roll. So let's say these moves are not taken well by the community. They create more problems than they solve, and there's no real way to counter it. Well, in this scenario, I doubt it would be possible for this to divide the community enough to see people in waves flocking back to Splatoon 2. It would definitely piss some people off, but not enough for people to just abandon the game. Plus, Nintendo would be working day and night to balance the new mechanics to be more balanced and fun. So scenario 1 is a no, it won't divide the community. Scenario 2. The new servers are really bad and Nintendo somehow manages to make the servers ending up even worse in Splatoon 3 than they were in Splatoon 2. This issue might actually be a player dividing issue. Though unlikely, let's say that Nintendo's combined IQ equivalent to 6 cockroaches and they just somehow totally mess up server infrastructure. Like it's all wrong. Nothing here works. The Squid game is dead and everyone just starts migrating back to Splatoon 2. Nintendo would once again work day and night to get the servers back into a working order to keep Splatoon 3 in a good position, and the players will probably end up coming back once the servers are fixed. But if the problem is too deep-rooted, they may not be able to fix the problem at all. But please do not lose sleep over this scenario because I'm like 95% sure this won't happen. Nintendo is bad at making online games, but they're not that bad, so don't worry too much about it. Scenario 3. Weapon balancing. This scenario is most likely an option that would divide the community. Let's say in Splatoon 3, people really don't like how weapon balancing is being done. Maybe the specials don't feel special, and the main weapons just really don't feel as fun as they used to be in Splatoon 2. This situation would get people wanting to go to the original feeling of Splatoon on the Switch that they fell in love with. There would be people who really like the changes done in Splatoon 3 weapon balancing, and another group that really just can't stand it, and just reverts back to Splatoon 2. And out of all of these scenarios, I find this one to be the most likely, because I'm sure Nintendo wants to make some changes to Splatoon's formula, and there are definitely going to be people that don't like this. How much people don't really like this is yet to be determined, but out of all of the situations, this is the one I'm most worried about. Scenario 4. Map choices. We already know Nintendo really wants to continue porting old maps into Splatoon 3. This was revealed by a job listing that Nintendo had posted. Let's say Nintendo ends up porting a bunch of Splatoon maps into Splatoon 3, and to rub salt onto this wound, the new Splatoon 3 maps ending sucking butts. And all we're left with is bad new maps and tons of old maps. So at that point, what's stopping players from just going back and playing Splatoon 2 again? Better yet, what's stopping players from just not getting Splatoon 3 entirely and just going back to all the Splatoon 2 maps because those are the best maps in Splatoon 3? I don't think this scenario is too likely, but I wouldn't rule it out yet. It all depends on how much Nintendo really wants to port maps from Splatoon 1 and 2. Scenario 5. Nintendo kills off Splatoon 1. This scenario is kind of another serious topic that may deserve its own video, but not quite yet. Nintendo made a new server system recently that so far I believe only Monster Hunter Rise is the only game to use, but Nintendo is currently moving away from their old server technology that they made Splatoon 1 on, and when that happens, Nintendo could pull the plug on Splatoon 1, potentially sooner rather than later. If this happens, Splatoon 1 would just be a game where you play hero mode and then squid jump, and the only multiplayer option would be Battle Dojo with a friend. The announcement of Splatoon 1's death would see players migrating back to Splatoon 1 to spend its final days with it to relive their old memories. I don't know when this would happen, or even if it would happen, although it's gonna happen one day, but I do know that at least a fraction of the player base would end up splintering off for a while to spend Splatoon 1's last days with it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think on whether or not Splatoon 3 will end up dividing the community. I sure hope it doesn't divide us. The last thing we need is more division. But anyways, that is it for me, guys. I will see you later. Bye.